Yo, what is up, guys? It's Travis, aka Travesty. Today I'm coming at you with an updated Darkseeker runes grind video. Um, I think the main difference this time is I'm using nodewar buff. I was able to get 25 monster AP from that, and I also have 15 AP, so 5 AP less than the turkey buff. But I did get the 358 AP bracket via my deck belt. So all things considered, I think we're up about 20 AP from the last video, as well as we've had quite a few more hours here. I started grinding here quite a bit, so much so that I'd run out of aggro, so I had to wait for a little bit for this. But very happy that I'll be able to test out the nodewar AP buff. Probably after the first 10 or so minutes, I'm gonna queue up a manga recap, whatever you want to call it, but that will probably be what I listen to for the most part. We're gonna full screen, effects down, bang, and let's go ahead and get this video started. Pets are aggro, everything's set up. My elixir, deep sea, army, simple cron, back attack crystals. Here are the add-ons. I've changed them slightly for Darkseeker runes specifically. Um, I changed this attack casting speed to DP minus 20, and then I removed the Dragon Strike add-on, put it on Spiral Torpedo, mainly because I do use Spiral Torpedo and to get behind the mobs if I can't kill them right away. But we'll see if that is a issue here. But I'm gonna go ahead and get my horse AP buff here. I'm gonna pop tent. I don't think I have any other buffs, so unlike the other videos, we're gonna be doing that. All right, everything's good. Let's get this started. Also, I copied Lua when it comes to removing the name of the mobs. So, and I also have Raging Wind unlocked. I feel like a lot of the time here is spent waiting around for stuff, so. Do a counter here. Getting close to killing them before they turn around. Not too bad, I would say. Focusing back attacks here is pretty important. Oh, it's one before they turn around. Pretty nice. Got an event. Yeah, one of the main things that lacks about Mystic here is like clearing out all the little mobs. Like she's pretty good at killing these big guys. Like Not like a Sukuna level of clearing, but pretty fast clearing of the big guys. I think our main lacking comes when it comes to clearing up the small guys. Yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully I can get a tie, but if I can't, it's whatever. I think my trash in the last video was 34k with 1 tied and 3 small events. Let's see if we can't match it or do better. With 2 tides, I get it like 38 to 39k, depending on how many of the small events. And I haven't gotten an hour with 3 tides with this much aggress available, so we'll see how it is. And apologies if my voice is kind of raspy. It's been a long day, and so yeah, I think one more rotation, and then I'm gonna hop on my manga recaps. I'm gonna laugh so hard if I get copyright striked by playing manga recap in the background. If I do, it is what it is. I'll just make this video unlisted. Devour, nice, nice, nice. Back full circle. Alright, let's go ahead and start this manga recap.
As the 4 of them walk down the path, Sarah comments that they have come a long way. Kuga replies that they still have one final challenge ahead of them. To his astonishment, Sarah says that while they are all grateful for Kuga's help, it would be best if they parted ways after this. Confused and surprised by the words, he asks why he wants to banish him. They have known each other since their student days. The guy explains that, to summarize, Kuga is a jack of all trades but a master of none. Sarah believes this is the best solution for all of them, and he will have to enter the hidden room alone. He adds that he can consider this a farewell gift from him. Feeling devastated, Kuga realizes that this is where his dungeon life ends. Mikari then asks Sarah if his decision might be a bit extreme, to which Sarah replies that it must be done, even if that means forcing him to go. Hearing this, Kuga feels a sense of happiness that someone cares about him. Nevertheless, he bids them farewell and steps into the hidden room all on his own. As he enters, he feels uneasy, sensing that something is lurking beneath his feet. A girl in splendid attire greets him in the room, asking if he seeks to face her all by himself. Let us look back in the past to how it all started. It's been 50 years since dungeons suddenly appeared on Earth. Magic and monsters were confirmed to exist within it, and along with it came new professions. Though it can only be used once, the magic relief became more generalized as it allows for the resurrection of the user automatically. As such, dungeon exploration and dungeon streaming rapidly gained popularity. Additionally, in one of the dungeons, there is the so-called hidden room of no return. Now, anyone might wonder how it gained such a title, so the answer is that in the past, not a single person has ever made it back out to the dungeon once they enter. All those who entered used up their one-use resurrection magic and were rendered unable to step foot into a dungeon ever again. And the monster responsible for it all was now in front of Kuga. The demon asks Kuga if he plans to face her all by himself. The demon was amazed by the calm nature of Kuga even if he was banished. He believed he had figured it out, it would happen eventually, and he thought it was probably for the best. The monster was happy to meet him because she was feeling bored. Saying this, she attacks Kuga as violently as she can, but Kuga is no less. He fights fearlessly with the vampire with his sword that was strong and rough in its style. However, he is astounded when she uses her teleportation powers to approach him from directions he cannot predict. If she had
Don't
not
have
been
my
with her
attack
in the
casting
whole
speed
time,
buff up.
Kuga would have never known she was even there. Seeing that he cannot let this go on, he decides to go on the offensive and starts slashing around swiftly. With nimble movements, he dashes towards the vampiress, who has just taken a step back. Although she manages to deflect his attack despite being in shock, she suffers a hit and so does Kuga. However, what the vampire does not know is that Kuga also could heal himself. Seeing this, she asks him if he is a jack of all trades. He grows quiet but then replies that maybe he is. As asked by the demon, he was fooled by the title of a hero. In reality, swordsmanship, defense, offensive magic, support magic, and even healing could be performed by a hero, just like a jack of all trades. They are unable to fully utilize their abilities in any area, which is a disadvantage compared to those who specialize in one field. As such,
I don't have
being
better
able to
gear in my
form a party
inventory, so
consisting
Manos
of those
Ruby
who
rings that I
specialize in different areas
used
is
to get 800
considered the
burst
best
for.
choice, as each party needs to make the most of their members' strengths. In their party, Sarah, the Sword Saint, took on the role of dealing with physical attacks. Yuria, the Saintess, specializes in magic attacks, and Mikari, the support caster, specializes in support. Kuga in the party ended up taking on the role of a healer. As they were having the conversation, a streaming drone was floating above them. Baffled and terrified about the thing, she asks about it, and Kuga describes that the video footage of them is being streamed for the entire world and the viewers can leave their comments in real time. Meanwhile, the vampire stopped attacking during
Origin,
all
not
of
bad,
this
not
and
bad.
listened closely with great interest. She was pleased to see someone take the time to explain things to her nicely. She becomes even more delighted when she sees the comments referring to her as cute. All of a sudden, she seems to be interested in streaming and asks Kuga to teach her how to stream. Kuga worriedly asks if she can even leave the room when she explains that she usually gets notified when an invader appears, and after getting ready, she teleports herself. Now the chat went from teach me how to stream to let's stream together. She's also about to say that even his blood smells delicious, but then pulls back all flustered and says that he just seemed like the perfect partner. Kuga is on the verge of losing his purpose. He then recalls the old memories of when they were students and they started streaming and exploring dungeons just for fun. Till now, all he was able to do was fight and protect everyone and couldn't even utter a word during the streams. He was never able to step
Oh, we
foot
got
into the
a
spotlight
tide
on his
event.
own, and that's the reason why he
We're
accepted
up kind
Sarah's
of big.
party
One
gift.
tide so
He didn't
far.
care if his dungeon life ended, as he was in that much despair.
One
After all
tide,
this, he met this strange vampire.
one small
If
event.
anyone asked, then he would definitely agree that he was not in his right mind at all when deciding this. But what started as a typical banishment story somehow brought about a new, never-before-seen duo. This chapter unveils the vampire's name, Alicia, a name she intuitively knew from the moment she became aware of herself. So when he asked who had named her, she simply did not have an answer to give. He introduces himself formally and, sensing her idle restlessness, asks if she has any ideas for content she might want to broadcast. Recently, Alicia had come to recognize the ample free time she had, time that seemed both a blessing and a challenge. The idea struck her suddenly. She could channel this freedom into something extraordinary. She could aspire to become the ultimate, formidable entity known as the final boss. Alicia explains that achieving the final boss status is no insignificant feat. It's a structured path that demands ambition and strength. The first step on her journey involves reaching the rare and dangerous SS rank. However, to achieve this status, She has to fulfill a series of challenging requirements. Among these, she must defeat over 30 invaders, conquer an A-rank party, and even beat an S-rank party. Additionally, she needs to push an S-rank boss into submission, establish a lair suitable for a formidable boss's castle, and finally ensure there's an open slot for an S-rank boss to enter. Kuga, listening to these details, finds himself admiring the comprehensive nature of these requirements. It's a surprisingly well outlined challenge, he thinks, and wonders if defeating dungeon explorers is an absolute necessity in this endeavor. Alicia, filled with excitement over her grand aspirations to become the final boss, admits that she hadn't considered every detail and curiously asks Kuga if he would be willing to engage in a fight with his kind should the situation demand it. To be honest, this made her a bit hesitant, as she probably did not want Kuga doing things that he did not want to. To this, Kuga explains that no rule strictly forbids explorers from fighting one another. Such battles are not uncommon, and they bring a unique flavor to the realm of dungeon exploration. Kuga goes on to share an understanding of the unique precautions and freedoms granted to explorers within the dungeon. Every explorer is required to have a powerful spell cast upon them, an auto-revival enchantment, known simply as Relief. This specific magic is crucial for explorers as it functions as a lifeline. If they fall in battle within the dungeon, the magic transports their bodies to the outer edge and revives them. However, this magic operates under one strict limitation. It works only once in an explorer's lifetime. After using the revival, any further defeat would be final, rendering re-entry to the dungeon impossible. This one-time safety net gives explorers a unique sense of freedom, along with the responsibility to act with caution. Among the explorers, some even make a reputation and follow out of challenging each other, often broadcasting these conflicts as entertainment for those beyond the dungeon walls. Remarking on Alicia's curiosity about the world beyond her lair, Kuga mentions the current hierarchy among explorers, especially focusing on the S-rank parties. There are currently 4 prominent S-rank parties, with one of the most notable being
If I got
the
it tied,
duelists. He also discloses that he had once
it's like
belonged
my
to an
current
A-rank
rate
party himself, a group that included
at
members
40k.
even stronger than him. The structure and ranking system among explorers seem to
I have to get
intrigue
it tied
Alicia
like every
further,
hour or
fueling
something,
her determination.
or every
It's at
15
this point
minutes.
that Alicia reveals the true purpose of her
Unlikely.
newfound streaming channel. Her aim is not merely for entertainment or fame, but for something more impactful. She visualizes using her journey as a rankless boss, climbing the treacherous ladder to final boss status as a form of psychological warfare. Through each broadcasted encounter, every achieved milestone, and each victory, she will document her journey in a series of immersive streams. Alicia believes that by sharing her story, she can instill fear into the hearts of humans, ultimately deterring them from entering the dungeon and engaging in what she considers the distasteful practice of dungeon streaming. She intends for her broadcast to become a chilling reminder of the consequences of intruding on her domain, serving as a warning to those who might dare venture into her territory. Kuga finds himself momentarily at a loss, contemplating the scale of chaos Alicia has planned to unleash. Her goals are ambitious, perhaps overly so, and he is left wondering what role he is meant to play in this elaborate scheme. Nevertheless, a few hours later, he decides to support her by guiding her first live stream. As the broadcast begins, Kuga is struck by the overwhelming response pouring in from viewers. Comments flood the screen, a mix of amazement, shock, and intrigue at the sight of a dungeon monster venturing into the realm of social streaming, a behavior that until now was unheard of. Alicia, with intense enthusiasm, seems eager to engage with this virtual audience. Her actions, being the first of their kind, stir curiosity and disbelief among those watching. News of the partnership between the banished hero and a dungeon monster spreads like wildfire, drawing an unexpected amount of attention to their venture. This level of exposure was unforeseen, and it added an edge of tension to the already peculiar situation. For her first broadcast topic, Alicia chooses to discuss the idea
It's
of
not what I
hunted
expected it to
explorers,
be.
a notion that is both provocative and alarming. The reaction from viewers is immediate and filled with astonishment. The comments
I didn't think
reflect
this was
a
a
mixture
streaming
of
one.
disbelief and fascination as people grapple with the realization that a monster like Alicia is not only aware, but has ambitions and strategies that extend far beyond the usual behaviors of dungeon dwellers. As Kuga and Alicia descended the hillside, they noticed a group of invaders approaching from below. The group appeared eager, their faces filled with lively excitement as they neared a significant point on their journey. One of them, swept up in the moment's intensity, exclaimed that it felt as if they were back in high school, recalling those days with the fond nostalgia of a shared adventure. Akina, one of the girls in the group, directed her gaze at Kenzukun, her voice brimming with emotion, as she said that above anything, Her heart had been set on joining the same party as him. As they drew closer, unaware of the threat lurking nearby, Alicia launched a sudden, fierce attack. She moved swiftly, her blade slashing through the air with deadly accuracy, catching them entirely off guard. The group, moments before steeped in the thrill of their journey, was now left in shock, unable to process what had just occurred. Their minds could scarcely keep up with the brutal reality of the situation. One moment they were recalling high school days, and the next they found themselves wounded and disoriented. The monster hunt that had brought them so far had been progressing smoothly, and their successful navigation through near-death situations had possibly instilled in them a dangerous sense of ease. But now, facing this unexpected attack, they were coming to terms with the fact that their journey was finished. Amid the confusion and pain, both Akina and Kenzukun reached out weakly, their fingers trembling as they attempted to hold hands one last time. Their expressions, etched with shock and disbelief, were tinged with sorrow, the life slowly draining from their eyes. For a moment there was silence, an echo of what could have been, as they grappled with the realization that their fates had been sealed by Alicia's merciless attack. Just then, Kuga appeared on the scene, his arrival leaving the remaining invaders completely stunned. Alicia, standing nearby, glanced at the survivors with a withdrawn curiosity, unfazed by the madness she had caused. She couldn't quite understand why they seemed so outraged. To her, it was simply the nature of things. She likened their reaction to the behavior she had often observed among humans. In her mind, she saw their raid into the dungeon as nothing more than a twisted game they played for pleasure, a pastime where the lives of creatures like
Killed that
herself
one before
were
turn
at
around.
stake for little more than entertainment. She questioned the reasons behind their actions, wondering aloud if this obsession with dungeon streaming was driven solely by the goal of money or just the craving for attention. Though Alicia acknowledged the emotional rage of the invaders before her, she could not ignore the irony of the situation. Humans, she observed, were the ones who intruded into the lives of dungeon creatures, forcing them into defensive fights for mere amusement. To her, it seemed senseless, an unending cycle of humans attacking and dungeon creatures fighting back. A dark performance played out for viewers beyond the dungeon walls. Meanwhile, Kuga's thoughts drifted to Alicia's remarkable strength. He noted that she had wiped out a young, promising B-rank party without a single hint of mercy, presenting herself as a powerful opponent. Kuga found her actions disturbing yet effective, a display of raw, unyielding power. A vampire of Alicia's caliber was not the kind of enemy that typically roamed this level of the dungeon, and the fact that this group had crossed paths with her by chance was an unfortunate stroke of fate. Their unlucky encounter was a stark reminder of the risks inherent in dungeon exploration. Alicia's curiosity about her new role as a figure in the streaming world continued to grow. She asked Kuga if she was truly being watched worldwide, and he confirmed that her actions had indeed garnered significant global attention. Her brutal efficiency and unapologetic behavior had stirred something in the audience, drawing a storm of hateful comments that flooded their screens. Yet, Alicia seemed almost pleased by this shift, her satisfaction deepening as the harsh judgments rolled in. Unexpectedly, the initial wave of outrage gave way to a change in tone. The viewers, gripped by a strange fascination, began to show a different kind of interest in her show. The sudden shift from disapproval to enjoyment left both Kuga and Alicia astonished. It was as if the audience had, within moments, transformed from condemning onlookers into captivated spectators, enthralled by the sheer audacity and danger that Alicia represented. To them, she was a dark
Too hot
spectacle,
to
a
say.
villain whose brutal strength and indifferent demeanor turned their fear into entertainment. Reflecting on this, Alicia posed a question that echoed through the tense silence of the dungeon. She wondered aloud whether humans were, in fact, the true monsters in this scenario. In her mind, they were indeed worse than monsters, driven by an insatiable hunger for thrills at the cost of other lives. Kuga, standing beside her, found himself unable to argue against her observation. Kuga couldn't deny it, as humans' predictable thinking messed up Alicia's plans. Alicia had intended to spread fear, hoping to use her streams as a barrier against the humans who sought out the dungeon's depths purely for sport. Alicia rushes up to Kuga in tears with cold sweat on her forehead, asking if humans are the actual monsters here. Kuga tries to agree, but she stops him and says that they cannot be monsters. For her, humans seemed even worse than monsters. Once again, Kuga could not deny it. In any case, humans' unpredictable thinking really messed up Alicia's plans after all. After the fierce battle with the invaders, Alicia and Kuga made their way back to her village, the hidden shelter of monsters. As they moved through the shadowed outskirts toward the heart of the settlement, Alicia suddenly turned to Kuga, her gaze softening slightly. She extended her hands toward him, asking him to hold them. Kuga hesitated, momentarily caught off guard by her request. Sensing his unease, Alicia questioned if he was embarrassed, and after a pause, he admitted that he was. With a slight knowing smile, Alicia welcomed him to the City of Monsters, a place that, as the name implied, was typically hidden from the view and reach of human eyes. The city spread out before them, revealing itself as a place both hauntingly beautiful and curiously serene. Its architecture and landscapes combined elements of both natural wildness and eerie elegance. The cobbled streets wound through towering structures of dark stone, with tendrils of ivy climbing up their walls, illuminated softly by the dim glow of enchanted lanterns. Monsters of various shapes and sizes roamed the streets, each engaged in what seemed like everyday routines,
Tinket
creating a surprising
36 minute
contrast to
mark.
the dark and ominous reputation monsters often had. As Alicia and Kuga explored the city together, viewers tuned into the stream and began commenting on the unexpected charm of the surroundings. The beauty of the city, which had never before been exposed to human eyes, sparked admiration among the watchers, who seemed captivated by the scenes unfolding on their screens. Many expressed surprise, marveling at the elegance of this hidden world and remarking that such devious creatures lived in a place that held such beauty and tranquility. It became clear that Kuga was likely the first human to ever set foot in this mysterious city. Adding a deeper layer of intrigue to the broadcast, Alicia took a moment to explain the city's unique position in the world of monsters. Although humans rarely came close to discovering it, the city was not technically forbidden territory. Monsters simply chose to remain isolated, and though unusual, it was acceptable for a human to enter. He says that while it is not explicitly forbidden, he wonders if it will really be safe for him to be there. She says it should be fine as he was something to her, but what exactly that something implied remained unknown to both Alicia and Kuga, and so they continue with Kuga remaining Alicia's something. As they walk through the city's winding streets, Kuga noticed the careful design and thoughtfulness of the structures around him, everything crafted for the monster's comfort and lifestyle. Amid the silence of their exploration, Alicia began sharing her personal goal, offering Kuga insight into her ambitions. Her primary objective, as Kuga had learned earlier, was to become the final boss, a powerful and unchallenged ruler among monsters. However, there was a secondary goal, one that carried a personal conviction. Alicia wanted to instill fear in humans, hoping to deter them from engaging in unethical activities like dungeon streaming. For Alicia, this practice reduced monsters to little more than a source of entertainment for
Okay,
humans,
a mini event.
robbing them of dignity and treating their lives as inconsequential obstacles. By showcasing the city and the lives of monsters, Alicia hoped
It's
to
2
plant
mini
a seed
events,
of
one
doubt among
tide.
humans, perhaps even changing their perspectives, forcing them to reconsider the ethics of dungeon streaming. Kuga silently pondered Alicia's words. While he admired her resolve, he couldn't quite tell if her actions were meticulously planned or simply driven by her frustration toward humans. The decision to showcase her world in this way was likely to stir curiosity and perhaps even empathy among the human viewers. Alicia's approach, whether calculated or impulsive, seemed to hold the potential to shake the very foundation of human understanding of monsters. Their exploration eventually led them to the part of the city where Alicia's temporary dwelling stood. The monsters who looked at Kuga exclaimed in surprise and let out sudden gasps. Just when he was growing uncomfortable, he suddenly saw a monster towering in front of him, a humongous figure in front of whom he looked like an ant. It had long braided hair, despite having the head of a bull, the body of a human, and hooves of a bull. The viewers of the stream noticed the monster and unanimously recognized it as the Minotaur, the S-rank boss. They had already started warning him and telling him to start running
I
for
missed
his
an
life.
event.
The chapter opens with Alicia facilitating an introduction between Kuga and Minchan. Minchan,
wow.
also known as the Minotaurus, greets Kuga warmly, expressing his pleasure in meeting him. Kuga is momentarily taken aback by the Minotaur's surprisingly polite demeanor, an unexpected contrast to his formidable presence. Minchan's kindness catches Kuga off guard, as it doesn't align with the stereotypical image of monsters he'd grown accustomed to. Turning to Alicia, Minchan raises a quiet concern about the appropriateness of having a human visitor in the City of Monsters, suggesting that Kuga's presence might unsettle some of the city's residents. Minchan then directs his attention back to Kuga, apologizing for his bluntness and expressing admiration for Kuga's bravery in venturing into the heart of a monster's sanctuary. The The Minotaur seems genuinely impressed by Kuga's courage, remarking on the boldness it must have taken to cross into such forbidden territory.
I did
Kuga,
get
though
into that.
appreciative of Min Chan's words, can't help but wonder whether his presence truly is seen as an
That's
act of
3
boldness.
events. Now
As
this is like
Kuga had two
exactly the
important reasons
same
for choosing to come
as
here,
my previous video,
despite the
but I
inherent
got the
risk.
tide a lot
The first
earlier.
was his reluctance to return to human society so soon after the encounter with the ill-fated,
So
kind-hearted
34k should be
adventurer party. That
the
event still
benchmark.
lingered heavily in his mind, and he feared how quickly he might be judged if he returned with the memory of those deaths so fresh. The second reason was Alicia's limited range. Kuga realized she was likely bound to the dungeon itself and unable to leave its bounds. He had briefly considered the idea of separating from her, but the lack of any secure means of communication left him with doubts. A planned rendezvous might have been possible, but without a reliable way to reconnect, the risk of never finding each other again loomed too large. Alicia, keenly aware of the dynamics in the live chat of their stream, began to notice a shift in the comments. A few hilarious remarks aimed at Kuga started appearing, an unsettling current of animosity developing against him. Concerned about the escalating hostility, Alicia drew his attention to a specific comment, asking what Kumazen meant. Kuga explained that it was the name of his former party, a reminder of the life he'd led before venturing into the depths of the dungeon and discovering this strange alliance with Alicia. The term triggered a rush of memories, both bittersweet and heavy with the weight of lost ties and paths not taken. With a firm resolve, Alicia turned to Min-chan, addressing the matter of Kuga's place in her life. She asserted that regardless of his human nature, Kuga was not just any outsider, he was someone significant to her. The possessive note in her voice carried a clear warning to Min-chan. Kuga was under her protection, and no harm was to come to him. The Minotaurus nodded in acknowledgement, understanding the depth of Alicia's words. In this declaration, Alicia made it clear that Kuga's human status did not diminish his importance, at least not to her. As the stream came to a close, Alicia
I think I'm
suggested
getting
a
better at
detour
deciding
into a
when to
quiet
just
garden
leave.
nearby. The garden, hidden from the bustle of the main city streets, was a tranquil, verdant space, its foliage bathed in soft, muted light. Here, amidst the gentle rustle of leaves and the earthy scent of moss, Alicia posed a simple yet revealing question to Kuga. She asked him about his preferences, curious to learn more about his likes and dislikes. After a brief moment of thought, Kuga responded, sharing that he had a particular fondness for apples. Alicia's face lit up with a faint smile as she revealed that she too enjoyed apples, especially the green ones. Their crisp tartness and indulgence she
That's
favored.
probably my
As
cleanest
Kuga
pack
and
so
Alicia
far.
made their way through the
If I could do
winding
that every
streets of
time, I
the
could
city of
probably get
monsters, they eventually approached a
a lot
small,
more.
unassuming shop nestled between larger stone structures. She asked the
That was
shopkeeper
kind of
about the cost of
ass.
2 apples. The shopkeeper, a stout figure with a gruff yet polite demeanor, replied that the price was 500 yen. This revelation surprised Kuga, as it revealed that the city operated on the same currency as his world, making him realize how interconnected the monster and human economies seemed. The fact that yen circulated in this isolated realm brought a new dimension to his understanding of the monster's society and left him contemplating the implications. If the Japanese dungeon used yen, he began to wonder if other dungeons around the world might use their respective local currencies as well. Kuga's thoughts drifted to the specifics of the Japanese dungeon's location. Nestled in the heart of Tokyo, with an entrance in the Ariake district, the Japanese dungeon held a unique position as a major gateway for those entering the mysterious monster realm. With only a few other dungeons in East Asia, such as the one in China and another in Thailand, the Japanese dungeon seemed isolated, with an overwhelming majority of Japanese residents populating it. This reinforced its connection to Japanese culture, even down to the currency that monsters used for their day-to-day transactions. Turning to Alicia, Kuga asked her where the inhabitants of the city of monsters obtained their money, curious to know how their economy functioned within this peculiar city. Alicia explained that each resident received a small sum daily, a form of basic income. The city operated on a self-sustained system, ensuring that even those with limited means could access the essentials needed to
That wasn't
survive
that
in
bad.
this shadowed world. Kuga found this insight intriguing. The idea that monsters lived within a structured society with economic systems in place hinted at a world far more complex than he had imagined. He felt compelled to offer to cover the cost of the apples, suggesting that since the currency was the same, he could be the one to pay. However, Alicia gently declined his offer, insisting that she was the one who should treat him today. With her apples in hand, Alicia led him back through the city toward her
Nice, we got
temporary
a grandpa
residence. The
prawn
journey was
box.
filled with quiet moments and stolen glances, the two settling into a comfortable rhythm of companionship. Her temporary abode was a quaint, modest dwelling situated away from the busier parts of the city. Once they arrived, Alicia encouraged Puga to make himself at home. She explained that this residence was merely temporary, a modest shelter, while she prepared to build her main castle. Her grand vision involved constructing a stronghold that would serve as both her lair and fortress, a permanent mark of her status as the future final boss. Puga noted an inn nearby and mentioned he had initially planned to stay there, but Alicia, with a cheerful smile and a hint of innocence, urged him to stay in her home instead, assuring him he was more than welcome. Her warmth left him feeling slightly flustered, but he accepted her invitation, appreciating her hospitality. As the evening set in, Alicia prepared her simple meal, a single, crisp green apple. Puga noted the simplicity of her choice, and they shared a moment of understanding, each appreciating the modest meal without the need for elaborate feasts. The evening air grew cooler, and the quiet of her home settled around them like a comforting blanket. After finishing their meals, Alicia guided him to the small, cozy bedroom, prepared for the night ahead. It was here that the atmosphere shifted unexpectedly. Alicia, with a hint of anxiety, pointed out a small detail that sent a wave of surprise through Puga. There was only one bed in the room. The realization struck him, and he stood there, momentarily stunned by her words. Alicia's matter-of-fact expression, however, suggested that she hadn't considered the implications of this arrangement, an endearing display of her innocence. Puga hesitated, the situation presenting an unexpected layer of tension, yet he remained calm, unsure of how to proceed in this unforeseen predicament. The night stretched on, the city outside sinking into a quiet stillness, as Kuga found himself contemplating this strange and wondrous world, feeling the barriers between their two realms slowly dissolve. In the quiet intimacy of Alicia's temporary abode, an unexpected tension hovers between her and Kuga, brought on by the sight of the single bed before them. Alicia appears visibly unsettled by the situation, her mind racing as she realizes she hasn't considered the implications of inviting a human guest into a space designed for one. Reflecting back to a seemingly trivial moment a few days prior, she now sees it as a missed opportunity to prepare for Kuga's stay more thoughtfully. Her expression softens into one of mild frustration, realizing how easily she overlooked this potential complication. It is, after all, quite unusual, even unthinkable, for a monster to share such a small space with a human. As the host, Alicia feels a responsibility to extend every courtesy to her guest, and the thought of Kuga sleeping uncomfortably on the floor feels unacceptable to her. She insists, almost stubbornly, that he shouldn't sleep anywhere but the bed. However, Kuga, noting her unease, suggests that he sleep on the floor to resolve the situation and relieve her of this predicament. Alicia hesitates, still wanting to offer him comfort, but Kuga assures her that he will manage. Reluctantly, she concedes, watching as he settles himself down, his form resting on the floor as best as he can manage. With the room settling into a hushed silence, Kuga soon drifts into a deep sleep, unaware of Alicia's lingering presence in the darkness. But as the quiet of the night wraps around them, Alicia finds herself unable to fully let go of her instincts. A deep curiosity and an undeniable urge begin to surface, coaxed by her nature as a vampire and her intrigue for the human before her. After a moment's hesitation, she moves towards Kuga, her steps soft and soundless as she approaches him in his sleep. She hovers over him, contemplating her next move, an instinctive craving building as she considers tasting a bit of his blood. Her sharp senses heighten the faint pulse of his heartbeat, a subtle yet enticing rhythm that calls to her. As she leans in, intending to numb him with a gentle dose of anesthesia, something peculiar happens. Kuga stirs. He awakens with a start, the haze of sleep lifting as he becomes aware of Alicia's presence looming above him. Confused, he watches her, a faint expression of bewilderment crossing his features as he realizes what she might be attempting. Alicia's own confusion mirrors his, puzzled as to why her attempt at anesthesia failed. She hadn't anticipated his reaction, and the realization seemed to throw her momentarily off balance. In that instant, Alicia does not back away. Instead, she gathers her composure and admits to her intentions, explaining that she had been hoping to taste a bit of his blood. Kuga takes a moment to process her words, silently reflecting on the situation. It strikes him as both surreal and oddly logical, given that he's in the company of a vampire, yet he finds himself neither frightened nor offended. He considers the sincerity in her voice, understanding that this desire comes naturally to her. With a calm resolve, Kuga responds thoughtfully, explaining that if she had simply asked, he would have willingly offered her a taste, provided it didn't harm him. Alicia's eyes brightened, her reserved manner slipping into one of surprise and gratitude as she takes in his offer. She hadn't anticipated such an understanding response, and his kindness left her momentarily speechless. A subtle smile appears on her face, her usual composure softened by an unexpected warmth. She moves closer, her fangs lightly grazing his skin. However, contrary to his expectations, she does not take it directly. Instead, she holds up a syringe and tries to pull out just a drop. She then carefully drops it on the tip of her finger and gives it a lick. Alicia savors the flavor, her expression becoming one of delight, as if savoring a rare delicacy. The experience is surprisingly intimate, yet devoid of hostility, with both of them respecting the boundaries of this unusual exchange. With her craving
So he
satisfied,
turns
Alicia
slow and
pulls back,
helps.
feeling a lingering gratitude toward Kuga for his acceptance. He in turn reflects on the moment, noting the gentle manner in which she had approached him and the odd sense of connection it had created. Having already tasted Kuga's blood, Alicia felt the lingering warmth of his trust. Kuga, curious about the experience, gently inquired if it had been satisfying enough. Alicia gave him a brief, acknowledging nod, admitting it was more than sufficient. Seeing her collected manner, Kuga asked if it was common for her to bite people directly. Alicia explained that this was not something she would ever do casually. Biting held a certain importance among monsters, especially for vampires like her. She pointed out that despite his unique connection to her, he was neither her kin nor a follower, so such a gesture would have been inappropriate. Her response carried a quiet formality that strengthened her strong sense of boundaries and respect toward Kuga, even as they shared this unusual friendship. Later, as they continued their journey through the dungeon, Alicia grew enthusiastic as she claimed victory over yet another group of invaders. Her face lit up with excitement as she confidently declared this her 26th kill, but Kuga chuckled and corrected her math, pointing out that when adding the 4 from the day before and the recent 4, it brought her total to 8 in this current streak. Overall, for the first step to achieving SS rank boss status, Alicia had now managed to hunt down 18 invaders. With her previous encounters, she'd reached a total of 26 invaders, which meant that with just 4 more, she would finally fulfill the defeat 30 invaders requirement. Meanwhile, Kuga couldn't help but notice the comments coming in from the viewers watching the stream. Messages flooded the screen. Many fans cheered Alicia on with encouraging words, fascinated by her journey toward becoming the SS ranked boss. Yet a portion of the viewers displayed disgust or disapproval, expressing distaste for the theme of invader hunting, showing that not everyone was comfortable with the intensity of her goal. Alicia, however, stayed undisturbed, her focus solely on her objective. With her confidence restored and her goal in sight, Alicia prepared herself to face the next invaders. She was about to set her sights on her next target when a voice suddenly broke the silence. Wishing her a good afternoon, she paused, surprised, and turned to find herself face to face with a group that emitted an ominous aura. Standing before her was the Monster Slayers Party, an A-rank team known for their ruthlessness. As underlings to the notorious S-rank Evil Slayer Party, they carried a reputation that preceded them, much like their masters. Kuga watched Alicia's expression turn guarded as she recognized them, aware that the Monster Slayers were affiliated with one of the 4 powerful S-ranked parties, Evil Slayer. Among the top-ranked parties, each held a unique style that influenced their approach to streaming and dungeon exploration. Lusion, one of the S-ranked parties, leaned toward traditional gameplay, while Iwikind opted for solo dungeon isolation, challenging itself without external interference. Duelists focused on player versus player duels, using battles with other explorers as a source of content. However, the Evil Slayer party was infamous for a different, more brutal approach, gaining a reputation for mercilessly hunting down monsters with a particular enjoyment of cruelty. The Monster Slayers, as followers of Evil Slayer, shared this brutal philosophy. The gleam in their eyes betrayed a harshness
My hand's
that
starting to
Kuga and
cramp.
Alicia had not fully expected, indicating they were ready to engage with aggressive force. Alicia could sense that they were not here by coincidence. Their encounter was likely intentional. A subtle tension filled the air as the Monster Slayers prepared to engage, reflecting the fierce and relentless nature of their group. As the tension in the air thickened, one of the combatants moved forward, swiftly delivering a powerful strike. The attack landed forcefully, propelling their opponent backwards with an intense impact. This unexpected move left the attacker momentarily surprised, as they noted that the opponent had managed just barely to evade the full brunt of the blow. The dodge was impressive, enough to momentarily earn the respect of the attacker. Standing a few steps back, Alicia, considering the scene with a careful gaze, turned her attention to Kuga and questioned whether their opponents were of A-class strength. Recognizing the prowess and agility of the group they were facing, Alicia noted that they indeed seemed well-trained and challenging. This observation sparked a sense of excitement in her as she realized that this encounter could be an opportunity. These opponents could provide her with the necessary challenge to fulfill two of the stringent conditions required to promote her rank to an SS-class boss, a feat she had long been striving toward. As the fierce battle unfolded, Alicia and her opponent exchanged relentless blows. Each move and counter met with reactions of awe and astonishment from onlookers. Their
I feel like
surprise
I've seen
grew
a
as
lot
they
of
watched
Nova
an A-class
Copulus
combatant
should go up.
hold their ground against Alicia, who was no ordinary fighter, but a vampire of considerable power. Her moves, enhanced by years of experience and supernatural strength, posed a severe challenge. Still, her opponent fought valiantly, refusing to yield easily. Among those Alicia faced was Shidahara, a skilled fencer whose primary weapon of choice was a dagger. This weapon, while seemingly less imposing, was wielded with such precision and finesse that it demanded her constant vigilance. Alicia remained acutely aware of the danger Shidahara posed, recognizing the dagger's swift movements as a potential threat that could exploit even the smallest opening in her defenses. As the battle intensified, Kuga made his way onto the battlefield, drawing his sword and demonstrating his own combat skills with an ease that came from years of practice and restraint. With a few powerful and expertly executed blows, he made his presence known. Noticing this, Alicia remarked to herself that although she hadn't truly needed his assistance, it was a relief to see Kuga finally stepping into the fray. She felt a sense of pride watching him reveal his long-suppressed strength. His participation marked a turning point in the battle, injecting a new energy into their side. Seeing Kuga's enthusiasm and capability, Alicia decided it was best to trust. She mentally marked her targets, choosing to take on the remaining three opponents herself and leaving the individual Kuga had initially engaged with him. She trusted in his abilities and wanted to give him the chance to showcase his skills further. Despite Alicia's decision to divide their focus, her opponent was undeterred. This adversary, far from being intimidated by her decision, appeared all the more resolved. In a grim show of determination, he made it clear that he was not merely here to battle, he was here to kill. Like, you're gonna kill me, because that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe both to this channel and my manhwa recap channel. You can find it down in the description below, link for the second
Hopefully the
channel.
next
I
one's
also
better.
post almost daily
Thank you,
manhwa
Nabi
recaps. If you want
Chan.
colored manhwa recaps, you can find it over there. Stay awesome, bros, and peace! Our protagonist stares into the thicket, his expression focused. The girl, trapped beneath a monstrous pig-like creature that is spreading her legs, struggles and cries out in fear. She is screaming at the monster to stop and shouting for help. The guy is holding a bamboo spear and is determined. He's speaking to himself, hoping she will stay still so that he can kill the monster. But just how did it come to this? Let us look back an hour into the past. The very same guy who we saw with a bamboo spear had earlier been digging a pit in the ground. He has buried a bunch of bamboo spikes in the pit with their spiked ends up and is now covering it all up so as to make his trap complete. He is sure that his target, another guy, will surely come. After finishing up the trap, our protagonist thinks back to how the other guy must be thinking that our protagonist has buried his hidden secret in the pit. He looks over his work that has turned out great and decides to set fire to his target once he falls into the pit, finally finishing him off with the bamboo spear. As he readies it, memories of his resentment against the target come to mind. He remembers how his target had everything including strength, academics, money and power except basic human values. No teachers and students could go against him, and he used to bully our protagonist to the brink of death. Thus, our guy has decided that he will kill his target before he gets killed by him, with no thoughts or worries about the consequences he might face. While he is hiding behind the bushes, he notices that the bully has finally appeared and is now walking towards him. Our protagonist feels nervous but decides not to panic, as that would risk compromising the plan. However, all of a sudden, the trees shake and there is a massive earthquake that shakes both of them up. When it finally ends, the target is alerted and starts leaving instead of walking towards the pit. This alarms our protagonist, as that would mean a failure of his plan. He hopes that his target will simply not worry about any landslides, or at the very least, if he knows it is safe, he might even return. With clenched teeth, our guy decides to stay firm and not give up. Just then he hears heavy footsteps that are not normal for his target, but he hopes that he has come back. Even the breathing sounds heavier, but at this point he does not care. Suddenly a loud thud and other noises signal him falling into the pit. However, seeing that there is still movement in there, our protagonist decides that the target must still be alive. He grabs the petrol container and splashes it into the pit, finally striking and throwing a match into it in a hurry. With a newfound madness on his face, he stabs into the pit mercilessly with a smile on his face as he feels satisfied with what he is doing. Shouting the word die repeatedly, he stands at the edge of the pit as he watches the flames die down and the figure below become visible. However, contrary to what he expected, he finds a monstrous creature with the head of a pig that was almost twice his physical body size, burned, stabbed, and bleeding
Candy
inside
cane
the pit.
chest, nice.
Suddenly it started disintegrating into particles and vanished into thin air. Just then a message appeared in his mind saying that he had leveled up. With no knowledge of how or why, he has entered a completely white room. There is nothing except white walls all around and a single laptop on a table with a chair beside it in the middle of the room. On the laptop he finds his name written on it along with other details like level and skill points and more. Being smart and well versed in isekai novels, he wonders if this is his status and starts shouting if anyone is there and if anyone can explain all this. Suddenly a message appears on the laptop prompting him to type his questions in. As he types in a large number of questions, he finds that most of them are just being replied to with a single word. Although he does not understand everything, he has still grasped some important information. Firstly, it is not a dream, and the condition to come to the room is to defeat enemies and level up. If he levels up, then he
A
can
little
get
too
skill
early.
points, which can be spent to acquire skills. Further, if he closes the skill window, he will return to the original location, and the time that was stopped in the room will resume outside. The idea of time passing is a really mysterious technology, but the health points and mana points increasing with his level are just like in a game. Finally, he types in a very important question: can he revive after dying? And the reply comes that he cannot. This makes it a very dangerous situation for him indeed. He wonders if the thing he just killed was an orc, and if he will have to fight more things like that again. This makes him a bit worried. There are 17 types of skills he can acquire, but he has only 2 skill points. Further ranking a skill up will need 1 point the first time, 2 points the second time, and so on. He will have to choose carefully for this as his life and death depend on his choice. Thus he takes up support magic and summoning magic skills as his first ones. Lastly, he decides to type the question of why he is being given skills and levels. The laptop just replies that it will be necessary for him from now on. He wonders if he can become a hero with this, but quickly dismisses that thought as ridiculous. As he closes the laptop, he is back in the field in the very same position he was in before entering that room. It is just as the PC said. Then he decides to test his skills out and uses the summoning magic to summon a raven and uses it to search and explore from the skies. While flying in the sky, the raven somehow talks back mentally and reports that there is an orc wandering on the road ahead. Seeing that he still had 2 more pitfalls left, he decided to make use of them. After using support magic, he boosts his physical powers and the bamboo spears, and his body starts feeling much
Damn it,
lighter
it
than
did
before.
when they turn
He
around.
wonders how long the effects last. As he calls and grabs the attention of the orc on the road ahead, the orc lets out a guttural scream and rushes towards the guy. Running as fast as he can, he realizes that there is no way for the orc to catch up, and he should even slow down, otherwise the orc might give up on chasing him. He can already see the traps a few feet away and jumps over them, landing with a dull thud on the solid ground. The orc following him falls into the trap and is impaled all over his body by the bamboo spikes. Although the state of the orc is pitiable, he knows he has to kill it and pushes his bamboo spear into the orc. After many stabs, the orc is finally dead and he sits down to rest. Yet he has not leveled up, but he is not impatient. It is at least expected that the experience points needed to go from level 0 to 1
I
would
was
be
too late
less
on the
than
wave
that
orb
to
there.
go from 1 to 2.
Kind of
Suddenly
like
he
falling
spots
asleep right
something
now.
shiny at the
Not gonna
bottom
lie.
of the pit that has been left behind after the orc vanished. Telling his summoned raven to alert him at the sight of any enemy, he climbs down to check what the object is and finds it to be a ruby. He thinks
Only
it
got
might be a drop
9 minutes
item,
left,
and
so we're
after
chilling.
checking the first pit, as expected, he finds another one there too. Suddenly the raven tells him that there is an orc chasing a human nearby. Perplexed, he makes his way there. Meanwhile, at a distance, a girl is indeed being chased, and she trips and falls. The orc, who has now caught up, is salivating with lecherous eyes. It drops its sword and starts spreading the girl's legs, seemingly to try and assault her. Minato, who has just arrived in time to see this, has analyzed the situation and sees a chance. He knows he will have to fight the orc eventually, so it would be better to do so
Got
not. Further,
4
he
mini
can just
events
run
now.
if it gets dangerous. Right now, he can have her
It's
act
another
as
devour.
bait and ambush the orc. Using support magic on his body and weapons along with the raven, he walks towards the orc with steady steps. He remembers how a wise person once said that creatures are always the most vulnerable when doing activities primitive to them. He hopes the orc and the girl stay like that for a bit more and step closer. Just then, the crying eyes of the girl meet him, and he realizes he must have been spotted. If she did some suspicious movements, then he would be noticed. Fear grips him on realizing that he might get betrayed, just like that time back at school. He had once helped a guy who was getting bullied, but in the end he got bullied himself, and even the guy he had helped joined in. This is why he will never trust anyone again. Honestly, it will not matter if she betrays him as long as he gets to kill the orc and gain some experience. Points, however,
One
contrary to
big
his
guy.
expectations, the girl starts thrashing around, causing a ruckus and grabbing the orc's attention, thus intentionally helping him out by acting as bait. The orc is furious and slaps her, not realizing that our protagonist has taken this chance to rush in. He pierces the bamboo spear into the orc's neck, impaling it cleanly. The orc cries out in pain and strikes him back with his hand before removing the spear from his nape. It turns around and looks at him, but starts searching for its sword. Just then the raven grabs the
That's
sword
5
and hands
mini
it over to its
events.
master. Not knowing what to do as the merit of ambush has been lost, our protagonist shudders in fear, but the raven helps him once again by attacking the orc from behind and throwing him off balance. Seeing this as a chance, he attacks the orc's neck, but is unable to deliver a fatal hit. The orc glares at him with a smile on its face as it flicks the sword away. Just when he is thinking that he will be killed, he notices the bamboo spear behind the orc and dashes for it. With a swift move and clean move, he once more stabs and drives the spear through the orc's heart. The orc, unable to respond in time, groans in pain and vanishes into thin air. Suddenly he is prompted that he has leveled up and realizes that he is back in the room again. For now he can use as much time as he wants to rest in the room and think about what to do. He has released a few things that day, and the first one of them is that he cannot fight and he will not get lucky all the time. He has to avoid close combat with the orcs, and the most likely way is to summon things other than a crow. Summoning rank 2 puppet golems would equal the strength of an orc, but there will be enemies other than the orc itself too. In the end, he does need someone to be a vanguard. He begins to wonder if he can make her his comrade, but hesitates as he is still afraid of getting betrayed. Yet she had believed in him and fought desperately. If he does make her a comrade, he can make her take spear skills and be the vanguard. It will be troublesome to give a girl a weapon and support her from the back, but in the first place, he wonders if she will even trust him. While she did trust him once, it might be different in the future, so he would have to make it such that they have a mutual advantage in trusting each other. Deciding to put his trust in her one last time, he decides to rank his support skill up and returns back to reality. He realizes he has returned to his original state that had just killed the orc and the exhaustion sets in again. Just then he notices the girl standing in front of him, gripping her skirt and covering her chest.
I
Her
don't
shirt
mind
is ripped
e-buffing when
and
I
her
know I'm
bra
gonna
is
get
now
z-buffed.
buckled. He looks up and tries to ask her name,
Before I
but
need
she
to
has
crouch him
already
off
started
again.
speaking and says that her name is Shimozono Arisu from junior high school 3rd year from class 3. Our protagonist finally reveals his own name too, as he introduces himself as Kaya Kazuhisa, a first-year class 2 student from high school. After getting his name, Shimizono sincerely thanks him for saving her. Seeing her awkward stance due to trying to cover her chest while she does so, Kaya is flustered. He quickly takes off his jacket and offers it to her so that she can cover up and be decent. Yet she weirdly looks much more alluring than before after putting it on. Just when Kaya is getting embarrassed because of this awareness, Shimozono asks him why his hands and feet are glowing. He says she might not even believe him with the way things have been going for him. However, she says she trusts him and sincerely asks him to tell her. He then stares at her a bit before proceeding to narrate all the incidents that happened with him after the earthquake until the point he met her. He decides to now leave out any detail except why he had made the pits. After all, it would be troublesome if she knew, but thankfully, she did not pry or ask further on that topic. After hearing this, she decided to tell her own story. Apparently, she had been running away from monsters that she presumed were orcs, attacking their school in huge numbers. They all then got separated and ran away. She happened to be the only one who got saved by Kaya. Looking up, she asked if she could be as strong as Kaya. He said that if she kills an orc, then she probably can, but she does not let him offer help from his side and asks for it herself. She asks him to lend her his strength in order to
Dang, these
become
guys
strong,
actually kind of
as
hit
she
hard
does
at
not
night.
want to be trampled on without being able to do anything. Kaya says that he understands and decides to help her. Fast forward a while and Kaya is currently being chased by an orc holding a spear. Although he had gotten used to it by now, the spear looked like bad news. With the help of pitfalls and bamboo sears, they had been able to close the gap in their strengths, but with that spear, the orc would be able to attack them from inside the pit too. Earlier, he had bestowed as many attributes as possible onto Shimozono, including keen weapon, physical up and mighty arm. She had felt her body growing light, and he had explained that he even used blood attraction that heals the user's wounds when hurting an enemy. Their plan is to essentially have Kaya lure an orc into the pitfall and light it on fire, while Shimozono waits in the bushes so she can finish it off with the spear. At least that had been the original plan. It would have worked with a sword-using orc, but this orc used a spear. Kaya knows he has to do something about it. As he realizes that his enhanced throw is also by his side and can be used, he decides to give it a try. Reaching the pitfall, he jumps over to the other side, acting like he has tripped and fallen. This makes the orc lower its guard. Grabbing the opportunity, Kaya directs his crow to hit the orc in. With the greater force applied by the crow, the orc is pushed even deeper into the pit, with the bamboo spike stabbing him. This makes him unable to move in any way. After finally lighting it all up on fire, he calls for Shimozono to do the final deed. She answers firmly, comes forward and starts with a stab, but the horrible cries of anguish and pain from the orc that come out of the pit make her flinch. Tears stain her eyes as she hesitates and her hands tremble. How can someone who had been living in peaceful times all this while do something so brutal all of a sudden without any precedent? Seeing this, Kaya understands, yet he firmly tells her to do it. After all, in this place, it is the survival of the fittest. She keeps stabbing it again and again until the orc's cries finally die down. Suddenly she freezes for a moment, but Kaya notices it and calls out to her. When she turns around, she somehow
I should've
feels
just left
different
this
to
guy.
him, and he wonders if she leveled up. She tells him that she had taken spear arts and healing magic, which roughly aligns with the plan they had in mind. She comes forward and applies healing on the wounds on his elbow. The pain is gone, and he acknowledges the skill as useful. As they sit beside each other for a while, she remarks that the white rune is indeed true. He jokingly asks if she had been doubting him after all, and she gets flustered as he chuckles. He continues by saying that it is indeed a hard-to-believe phenomenon. Although that is the case, she is thankful she met him as she was able to select the skills properly due to his advice. He tells her that she can call him Kazu as they are comrades now after all. She also requests him to call her Arisu from that point. He gets a bit taken aback by how close her face is, but seeing her smile, he agrees and calls her so. It had been a long time since he had been able
Alright,
to
my
smile
hour's
like
about to
this.
end here.
Ignoring those thoughts, he decides he should start preparing soon. Using
We'll
a
call
skill
this
he learned
last
recently,
pack.
he repairs the spear the last orc had dropped. She is amazed as he explains that he can now repair things with the rank 2 support magic he has learned. Grabbing the spear he repaired for her, Arisu holds it up, remarking that with this she will now also be able to fight and will not be weak anymore. He suggests that they should now form a party now that
Oh
she is
my
level 1.
fucking god,
When
bro.
asked how they can do that, he responds that they simply have
Actually
to join hands and
ridiculous.
wish for it. Along with that, he also realizes that he can use his repair magic on clothes.
What's
Thus,
my
after
trash?
fixing her clothes, he gets his vest back.
37.
He
Okay, it's
apologizes, saying that he should
37k.
have realized it sooner, but she says that it is fine, as she
At
is
the
really
second
grateful
tide.
to him for everything. Further, she happily holds up her pinky and remarks that the matching rings they
I'm gonna
got
finish
are
this
pretty.
tide.
The rings are like a mark given to party members. When asked where they are headed at the moment, he mentions
So
that there is
fucking
a steep
stupid,
cliff
bro.
up ahead from where they can
This
get a
game's
wolf's
fucking
eye
ass
view of the entire
cheeks.
place. He
Why would
apparently
you give me a
wants to get a
tide right
proper
when my
grasp
hour's
of
done?
the current situation. Their school
So
named
fucking
Kitayama
stupid.
Academy was located in the mountains called Kitayama.
So
The entire
fucking
mountain
stupid.
is owned by the academy.
Why couldn't you give
However,
it to
when
me
they finally reached
middle of
the
my
glade,
video?
the site was not at all
Jesus.
what they had expected to see. There were wild animals like elephants and monstrous birds too, but no sign of roads or buildings for miles and miles. As far as the eyes could see, she says she's about to ask a really stupid question, but asks it anyway. She asks which way the station is, to which Kazu has no answer. He says he does not know, but it is definitely not that way.
Fucking
He had quite
retarded.
expected this honestly, so he had come here to confirm his suspicions. Probably during the earthquake, this whole mountain must have been caught up in a big disaster. He tells Arisu that they can ask questions later in the White Room once again, but for now, they should just focus on leveling up. After a bit of work and support from Kazu's magic, Arisu is able to fight one-on-one with an orc using her spear and can kill one in a direct confrontation. Seeing that they can now fight properly at the very least, Kazu tells her they should decide their future plans. From the crow's search, he had gathered that the orcs were coming down from the top of the mountains. Just then, Arisu makes a troubled face and tells him that she wants to save her friend. Thus, she requests his help and asks him to accompany her to the school. Seeing his confusion, a stream of tears forms on her face, and she confesses that she had left her behind when she was being attacked by an orc and ran away. The friend's name was Ryuki Tamaki, an energetic and athletic girl who was always good at sports. Arisu had never been particularly good at sport, but she loved to watch Tamaki play. Tamaki had one day invited her to play after a brief interaction they had had together, and that had become the start of their friendship. Even though Arisu was not good at socializing, thanks to Tamaki, she had been able to make a lot of friends. That day, they went to the training institute together, as Tamaki had said she wanted to learn cooking, but after the earthquake, the fire stopped and there was no water. This was followed by countless orcs suddenly charging in. Tamaki had acted as a decoy to help Arisu escape, and she had run away in a daze, leaving her friend behind, but another orc found her in the forest, and that is when she was discovered by Kazu's crow. She then adds that she believes Tamaki is still alive and thus wishes to go save her. As he hears all this, Kazu thinks back to the training institute he had only heard of but never visited. It was a multi-purpose facility renovated from an old school building. Honestly, there was a very low possibility that her friend was still alive, but if he refused, then Arisu would just jump in and might go save Tamaki herself, despite knowing what would happen to her if she failed. He sighs and says that they must avoid a double disaster at all costs. It will be of no use if they go to save her and end up dying themselves. First, they will go to the training institute and observe the situation there. However, he firmly states that if the situation looks impossible, then they will turn back and ask if she is fine with it. When she replies in affirmative, he tells her that when her spear arts and his summoning
All right.
magic become rank
Well,
2, they will go there. She understands.
that went on a little bit longer than I wanted it to. But the actual trash number with one tide and I think 5 mini events was 37. 37. And then if you add this additional tide, it becomes 41. But if I got the tide before, I think that would have been like 40k. So 37k with one tide and 5 small events. Not too bad. And then we also got pretty carried on these origins, devours, all that kind of stuff. And then let's see what we get from this. Prawn. Yeah. I guess you got one of the drop things. But anyways, guys, this has been Travis, aka Travesty, nodewar buff, 37k. Not too shabby, not too shabby. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it for tonight. Appreciate y'all. And hopefully that gave a pretty good benchmark on Awakened Mystic's top performance. So 37k, one tide, 40k, two tides, and probably every tide gives you 3k more. So I hope that helps, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.